What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. Today is season 8, episode 9. And I have an ex-Marylander, an ex-East Coaster on the show tonight. And just really quick, Mr. Pat Wescott, thank you for joining us tonight, man. I appreciate you making some time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Honored to be
Pat
here.
and I have a mutual friend, Christian Stengel, who's a drummer in the Baltimore area, but doesn't play anymore. By the way, when's the last time you talked to him?
It's been a
Yeah.
long time. It's been a long time, probably like 12 or 13 years,
Oh,
I want
man.
to say. I've talked to him a little bit like through social media, but I haven't seen him.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so I moved out of Maryland quite a while ago, actually. So
Right, right. But we have a mutual friend, and I knew Christian and Pat in these worlds of like boogaloo, funk, blues, that kind of thing. And then I think in 2005, like when you did this record with Park Police, I think we
mhm.
talked and you sent me like the files because I can remember I had moved home. I remember being in my home like room, my kid
Yeah,
homestead, and listening to the tracks and like going back and listening to it again because I loved it so much. Um,
sweet.
so I just want to talk to you about Park Police and everything, but I want to start this like I
Mhm.
normally start them because I wouldn't want to do the service of like not being my normal guest, obviously. Um, but what's your earliest musical memory, Pat?
Wow. Um, that would be probably from my brother. I had a brother where I have a brother who's 12 years older than me. So I think I was probably like 3 or 4, and I distinctly remember him playing this song in his room because he used to just go up there. He was a teenager at the time, and he would go in his room and shut the door and play vinyl records and very loudly. And I heard him playing this beautiful song, and then it went into this crazy kind of scary crescendo and then stopped and there was a huge bang and it
Mm,
scared the crap out of me. It was Day in the Life by the
yeah.
Beatles. And I just remember knocking on his door and wanting to know what happened and what was this all about. And he showed me the cover. And I just remember looking at seeing that cover of Sergeant Pepper, and that was, probably my introduction to the Beatles. And just thinking, I was like, who are these wizards? They
Right?
look crazy. So
So was your brother a musician at all?
yeah, yeah. Actually, he played guitar. He got me
Oh,
into playing guitar. Yeah. I mean, he wasn't super serious with it, but in high school, he built an amplifier with this guy named Wade from down the street, and this thing was in our basement, and it was like this 212 kind of unfinished cabinet. And he had, like an Ibanez electric guitar down there, and he went off to college, and I would go down there and just kind of look at it. I'd open up the case and just kind of touch it, and later on I started playing it. But yeah, I think there's no doubt that he was the one that got me into it. And it was also cool because being so much older than me, he turned me on to a lot of music from when he went to college. He would come home and give me tapes of things that like that's how I heard REM, and I was listening to REM probably before a lot of my friends were, just because of him,
man.
and other bands too.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
quite a spread age-wise. I mean, I have a brother that's 4 years
Hmm.
older, but he was like a integral part of like exposing me to music, as I was
Yeah.
kind of way earlier than my friends. Like I was listening to Fish
Right.
in middle school. I'm like
Right.
my friends didn't start getting into that till high school. So it's like that's the advantage of having like siblings with good taste. It's
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
getting it.
Absolutely, yeah. And my sister was 6 years older than me, or is 6 years older than me, and she was into like disco and funk and stuff like that. So she
Oh,
kind of turned me on to that part of it. So I kind of had the two worlds, which was like he was listening to Yes and the Beatles and then college rock when that came along, and then she was into like disco and funk and all that stuff. So
so
just
this
kind of
totally
kind of flipped.
explains you then.
Yeah,
That
pretty much, pretty
That is
much.
a very, very astute way. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me now. Like, because you're a chameleon in a way. Like, I feel like I've seen you
Hmm.
play in a bunch of different iterations of different musical projects.
Yeah.
Whether I was on the bill with you guys or I saw you because I was with Christian or whatever it was, but like,
Hmm.
you definitely have worn a lot of different hats, genre
Yes.
wise.
Yes, I have. I get sick of things pretty easily.
So, like, when you started playing guitar, though, like, when you got serious about it, like, what were you playing at that time?
Um, so I just listened to records. I took, I think, 3 lessons from Carl Flipiak. And then I remember I got like in trouble. My parents were like, "You're not taking lessons anymore." I was like, "Okay." So I guess I'm on my own. And I just sat in my room and I used to play along to records. So it was anything from the Smiths and the Smithereens to Cream and Hendrix and Led Zeppelin, a lot of
Okay.
Led Zeppelin, and just kind of I would learn by ear and I would learn the solo, and then figure out the scale of based on that solo. That's kind of how I learned everything. I have such a weird like way. My inner theory is just kind of a warped way of doing things.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, Stevie Ray Vaughan, all that stuff. My brother turned me on to Stevie Ray Vaughan at a young age.
Mhm.
So I loved all that stuff, and I like old U2. So I got into a high school band with some really great guys who all turned out to be great musicians, and still to this day are great musicians. And so we kind of turned each other on with a lot of different stuff, but mostly playing like alternative rock mixed in with classic rock, and then we wrote songs too. So
Nice.
kind of from the
Nice.
beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and this was all where did you grow up exactly?
So I grew up in a little town called Baldwin, Maryland,
Oh, okay.
near Jacksonville. Yeah, kind of out in the sticks.
Okay. I'm not too
Hmm.
far from there now. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm in
Cool.
Moncton.
Beautiful,
So,
beautiful place. Oh
yeah.
yeah, Moncton's beautiful.
Yeah, man. It's crazy to it's like we always talk about Smaltimore, in terms
Uh-huh.
of like all the musicians like coexisting in the like whether it's like the Cat's Eye or like the Fells Point scene in general or whatever. There's always like this intermingling that everybody kind of knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So it's like
Absolutely.
it's a smaller community, but it's not in a way. But there's a lot of
Mhm.
great players here, man. It's like,
Absolutely.
you know,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of weird. Like I went to when we were at the beach this weekend. Um, I went to see this one musician that was in town, and he's from Nashville, but he's originally from Australia. So it's
Oh,
like,
wow.
yeah, so he's like living there, and he was on my show 2 weeks ago. So we went to see him, and then my old keyboard player lives down on the Eastern Shore, and then he's like, "Oh, dude, the scene here is killer. This person's here." I was like, "Oh my god, I know that person. Like, I didn't know they lived here." It's just weird. Like Maryland's like it's
Mhm.
just everybody knows everybody.
It is
Um,
true. It's funny because 'cause I'll see people like, and with social media connections, I'm like, "How do these people know each other?" Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah.
It's really weird. Um, and then so just as like a short brief thing, because will remember this till the day I die because I was so embarrassed. But when we came to the PRS plant and I didn't have regular shoes on because I was a dirty hippie at the
Oh,
time, and
yeah.
you had to let me use your shoes, and my feet are a little bit bigger than yours, so I was just like that the
Right.
whole way. Um, what were you doing at PRS again when you were there?
IT.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, cool.
Mhm. Yep.
What did you think when you saw the Silver Sky come out?
Oh, I thought it was really cool. I mean, I was a little bit shocked that it happened,
Mhm,
just because I hadn't seen them really do, designs that close to another design before, at least that I can remember.
mhm.
But I haven't played one actually. But it sounds great. It looks great. I mean, I still keep in touch with a bunch of people there. I was in a band with the national sales director for years called Elder Statesman.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
and I'm still very good friends with Jim. He's a great guy.
nice.
So he'll send me pictures of stuff. Like he said when they were working with John Mayer before they released it, he was like sending me pictures of, hey, he's like check this out. Like,
That's so cool,
this is
man.
yeah, it was cool.
It feels pretty good. It plays pretty well. Like I have a
Sounds great.
yeah, the pickups sound amazing. But like when I first played one the first year it came out, the frets felt really small. So
Hmm.
it was weird. Like it's almost like I had a harder time like digging into the guitar in a way. But I
Yeah.
think it like the different iterations since they've kind of tweaked some things. I think they made the frets a little bit bigger. At least the one that I played in the past year felt like the frets were a little bit bigger.
Hmm.
I could be wrong. Could have been the same, and it's all like a placebo to me. But
It wouldn't surprise me because I know Paul's a nonstop tweaker. He's just a nonstop. And I
yeah,
do remember that well. I used
yeah,
to actually I got to know him because I would go over to his house and work on his computers in his studio and stuff like that. And he would give me gear as like payment to do things on the side for him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he was going through a divorce at the time, so I would like sometimes he'd tell me to come over, I'd knock on his door, and he would be at the door with a bottle of tequila. He's like, "We're gonna have a couple shots first." Like, okay.
He
Whatever you
seems
say,
like a
Paul.
good dude.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He's definitely on. He's got his own thing going on, but I've never heard anybody with a pair of ears like that. Like he'll just point things out to you that you're just like, wow. Yeah,
That's
it's like,
nuts.
yeah, it's cool.
That's so nuts. All right, so let's talk about Park Police. So Pat was in a band called Park Police, and it was a power trio.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So you, and then who were the other two people in the band? Give them a shout out.
Yeah, Bruno Anderson on the drums and vocals, and then Eric Bloodsworth on the bass and also vocals. They both write songs too.
Okay.
So that was cool. We were in Juke together. So I think that's maybe where we had played. I don't know if did Tribe of Ben ever play with Juke? I can't remember.
I think we did. I think that's the first time I played with you guys. Was Christian playing?
Sense. No, he didn't. He played in Speakers of the House with me.
Yeah. Okay.
So we started that band together. Like,
isn't that funny? Because that band is still going on.
I know.
It's still going on, and it's like,
I know.
It's weird. It's got to be like a almost like a Dead and Company type situation for you guys. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's really funny.
It is funny.
All right, so where did you meet those guys?
So I met Eric at the beach. We used to work together at Phillips Crab House years ago, and then I met Bruno when I was working at Kemp Mill Music in College Park when I was going to school there, and his girlfriend was my boss, and I was looking for a drummer at the time. Eric and I had formed Juke together, and we had a drummer, but he was on the Eastern Shore, so it was kind of a little tough.
Mhm.
Polly was like, "Oh, you should talk to my boyfriend. He loves the funk, and he's in a metal band right now, but he really wants to play like more groove stuff."
Mhm.
And so I went to see him, talked to him. He came out and played with us, and next thing I know, he was in the band.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah,
So where were you guys based out of at the time?
College Park.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were like, a College Park band, and we ended up and Mick Shower joined that band on keyboards, and then we toured up and down the East Coast and had a booking agent and tried to do we all graduated from school and just tried to be full-time musicians for a couple of years there.
Right. So was this grad school for you? Was this like a
No.
master's? Okay, it wasn't. All right.
Mm-mm.
So it's crazy to think about what you just said, like, oh, he likes funk, whatever. Because I always look at this record as like one of my favorite indie rock records.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't like, because what were you listening to? Like, what were you all listening to at the time when this album was written?
Yeah, well, I mean, so Juke had broken up once already, and then we got back together. So we broke up, I think, and then Eric and I did like a trip hop band called Loa with Bronson Hoover and Christian.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we met Christian, through Bronson. And then and Bruno and Eric had a kind of a acid jazz thing going on for a little while, but then we got Juke back together. Except we were doing kind of instrumental. It was a totally different thing at the time. We were trying to do like more instrumental post-rock stuff. So we were listening to all this stuff like Tortoise and Five Style, all these like post-rock Chicago bands.
Oh.
And we recorded like an instrumental record. And we were trying to start to do that type of thing. And then Mick got introduced to the guys from Clutch through the guys at Atomic Music and joined Clutch. And then Juke was over. So we decided, hey, why don't we do a rock thing? Let's get back to, because we were all like, fans of like alternative rock, and we've been listening to, growing up, and then we've been listening to a lot of indie rock stuff. I was just getting back into like singing again, and I didn't want to like sing funk stuff. I wanted to sing like rock. So we were listening to like Built to Spill, older Wilco, Clark Kent. I don't know if you ever heard Stuart Copeland's solo stuff, but that was very influential on us for some reason. There's a band called Beulah an album called Handsome Western States, that if you listen to that, you'll hear a big Park Police influence there.
Okay.
Yeah, so Pavement, Radiohead, all that stuff. A lot of the stuff that was happening in New York, Strokes,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeahs, that early 2000s, Interpol, all that stuff too. So,
Man.
and then there was like local bands in Baltimore, Roses Space Travel, um, you know, that my good buddy Tim's in that band, Slow Jets, who I played with for a little while. Um, Guided by Voices,
Oh
they're
yeah.
they're probably that was a big influence. And then the last one I would say is Neutral Milk Hotel. I think we were listening a lot to them too at the time.
Okay. Man, yeah, it's this record I feel like is so the only way I can describe it, like I feel like for sure, for me at least, like Down with Control feels like it could be a Queens of the Stone Age song, but like with a
Oh yeah.
little bit more Brooklyn infused Queens of the
Hmm.
Stone Age in a way,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know?
We listened to them too. Rated R was a big influence, I think.
Okay. Because there's like so many, it's like very cohesive. The record, I feel like from start to finish, you know how sometimes you listen to albums and you're like, wow, this band is very bipolar. Like there's like
Hmm.
one thing going on in the first half of the record, the one thing going on in the second half. I feel like this record is very cohesive without sounding the same all the way through.
Cool.
Because I think some bands you can listen to some records like indie rock records, and it's like there's not much going on in terms of different melodic or harmonic choices or
Hmm.
I don't know, grooves even. Whereas you guys seem like you were very intentionally writing different songs, but very much with a fingerprint of Park Police.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that helped that was that you had three songwriters in the band.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we're all coming with three different perspectives, but had been playing in other, bands with each other we had played with each other for like 10 years at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, one thing I always try to do is if I write a song, the next song is going to be totally different. I hate going to see bands where like every song sounds the same. So I try to vary it up with tempos, and I still do that to this day.
Mm-hmm.
I try to make things different. So that is definitely intentional. But yeah, I mean, I also think just the three of us like writing songs, from different perspectives helps that. And then I'd always push, I'd be like, I don't want to be the only one writing music, and I know these guys are really talented, so I'm always pushing them to, hey, what do you guys have? What do you guys have?
Nice.
So,
Nice. So the drummer, you said the drummer was Bruno, right? And then
yep,
bass players, you said Eric.
Eric, yeah.
Okay. So did Bruno sing the whole record? Was the lead singer on the whole record?
No, I'm singing. So I'm singing most of the songs.
That's what I thought. And I was like, hold on
Yeah.
a second. I thought it was Pat. Yeah.
And then
Okay.
Eric sings Down with Control. So that's his tune.
Okay.
And he has another song on there that he wrote. Can't remember the name off the top of my head. Um, and then Bruno he sings one song on there,
Okay.
actually. So yeah. And then they're singing backups on a lot of stuff too.
Okay.
So
Well, let me do this. I'm gonna try to play a little bit of the record just so people can kind of get a vibe for it, so you can understand why I'm so excited about it. But I will say this, and I told you this, Pat, but like this record, I mean, it means a lot to me, in terms of hearing a record that's maybe not extremely like something I would gravitate to listening to immediately day to day to day. But the first time
mhm.
I heard this, I fell in love with it. And like it's a record
Awesome.
that keeps coming back into my life. Like every year there'll be a moment when I'll be like, I want to listen to Mission Song. And then I'm like,
Oh, cool.
fuck that. I want to listen to the whole record because it's great. Um,
Awesome.
so it's just like, I've been telling, so many of my friends to check it out. In fact, dude, I sent Josh Scott from JHS Pedals, who
Oh, wow.
I've gotten to know him over the years and stuff. And I was like, dude, you
Hmm.
would love this album. You have to check this out. But it's like this is like right up his alley. But let me
Oh,
play a
cool.
little bit of Mission Song. Like this song by far to me is like the standout song on the record, which I'm sure that's why you guys maybe put it right up front. But I feel like this could be a radio hit easily now. Like it's
Oh,
just great.
cool.
Let me play a little
Yeah,
bit.
thank you.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna stop it there. So, first and foremost, what guitar were you playing, and what were you running through? Because that tone is so cool, man. It's like it sounds like. Are you playing a jazz box?
No, actually. So there's two guitars, two different amps on that. Um, if I recall, so I had my buddy Tim. He had this Tokai Telecaster that he let me borrow,
Oh,
and I
cool.
had a blackface Fender Bassman
Mm.
that I was playing the rhythm tracks through, and then that lead is an Angus Young SG through a '60s Supro Royal Reverb,
Oh,
um, and with a Voodoo Labs fuzz pedal with a dying battery,
I was gonna ask you that. So, okay, all right. Here we go.
which was a mistake, and that I didn't know anything about that until it actually happened, and I was like, oh my god, this is cool. I got to play this on the whole song.
Yeah, dude. I thought that was a fuzz pedal. It sounds like the
Yeah.
bias is just a little bit messed up and that it's like it's kind of
Hmm.
starved for power. So I was wondering.
Exactly.
That's
Yep.
awesome. Okay, cool. So were those two guitars basically all over this record?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. So no hollow body at all. Nothing like that.
No hollow body that I recall. I mean, I
Okay.
do have this one that you can see behind me. That's probably my oldest guitar right now. And I've had that since '98. That's a Guild
Okay.
X175, but I don't think I played that. That was, I was trying to go for like, I'm a big single coil guy most of the time. But then I had this Angus Young SG. I just basically what happened was I had this guitar which I really like the sound of, and I went to Atomic Music. And I went down the I was looking for like a new small amp to record with, and I just plugged into everything that they had, because you've probably been there, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
um you know Lewis and Eric are like the coolest guys, and I've known them for years, and I just was told them, hey, you mind if I just go and try everything? So I plugged into this crappy little amp that it only had an S on it, like the Supra had fallen off and it just had the S, and two tens. I think it's 18 watts. And I just was like, wow, this thing sounds amazing. Like just with this guitar. And I had it all the way up and it wasn't that loud. And that amp is, I still have it. It's actually in the shop right now, but that is my go-to overdub amp. I use that for overdubs. And for whatever reason, it just sits in the mix really, really well. It just cuts through everything, and
Yeah.
it's an awesome amp. I just
Yeah.
love it.
It's really apparent at the end of the tune too. Like I guess the solo at the end, were you using that amp too?
Hmm.
And also
Yep.
the SG.
Hmm.
All right, let me
Yep.
fast forward a little bit. Because the solo at the end, like the fuzz, and like were you for the Supra, were you close miking it? Were you kind of getting a little bit of the room too?
Um, I'm pretty sure I close mic'd it, but it's hard to say. I mean, I'll tell you that whole record was recorded in a basement in Severna Park, like a cinder block basement.
Oh hell yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we didn't really know what we were doing. We're using like a Presonus, like one of their first USB 8 input, um, you know, cards
Interface.
for most of it. And then I think three-quarters of the way through that, I got an RME Fireface from Paul, who, and then but I think Mission Song was recorded with that and a few other, maybe three or four other songs.
Okay. Were you
So
guys going into Pro Tools or were you in like
Cubase.
Cubase? Okay.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
mean, here's the thing. It has the DIY charm though.
Yeah, it's
I I
fuzzy.
I think in a good way though. Like it still stands up, man. When I was listening to it, because I listened to it twice on the way to the beach because I was trying to come up with like what I wanted to talk to you about, obviously, and everything.
Hmm.
And then when I came home, I'm like, let me refresh and listen to it again a couple times. And then after that, I went to listen to something else that's more modern. Sounds it stands up, man. It's like loud enough. It's like, you know what I mean? Like the way you guys
Cool.
recorded it, like I said, like tons of charm. The drums, you can tell like the drums are the main thing that might have been the hardest thing to record. But I think that it came out in a very cool way. Like it fits the
Yeah.
vibe of the music. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I think that's a testament to Bruno. Bruno, he mixed it all, and he went to music, or like, recording school at Omega, in Bethesda, and so we were kind of relying on him. But I would do overdubs on my own, and then believe it or not, Paul Reed Smith mastered the whole thing for me
Oh,
for
well,
free.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if we can find this fuzzy tone real quick. Yeah, man.
Yeah, double that one.
Oh, I love the ending of this song too. Dude, that is so cool, man. It's like that's what I was asking. Like, is it room or not? Because there was like, did you have slapback or anything on as well?
I probably did. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one guitar player. Now that I think about it, that I listened to like nonstop during that period. A guy from his name is Billy Dolan from a band called Five Style.
Okay.
And so I was kind of trying to cop some of his, like, he does these weird bends and has a lot of slapback, and so I was probably trying to kind of cop some of that.
So that's what I wanted to ask you too. You know what's really neat about this record is, and something that I don't hear other guitar players do that much, but I've never heard that do. So maybe it was like you influenced by him, but a lot of those cool harmonic double stops that you do on this record, were you in any other alternate tunings? Was the whole thing in standard?
Whole thing's in standard, yeah.
Okay. There's certain things that you do where it sounds like you're playing like a spread voicing and it's probably just two notes and maybe the root is in the bottom and the third is on the
Yep.
top, but you're bending the third into the fourth, like you're doing a suspended kind of double stop.
Yep.
That stuff is hip, man, especially in the context of an indie rock record and how you guys wrote these tunes. Like it's smart, and I wouldn't expect anything else from you because you do have, a good harmonic knowledge and like implementing that from funk and from jazz and soul music. Like you've implemented that into an indie rock setting without isolating anyone.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you.
So, but like those double stop things that you do, is that from that guy? Like, did you feel like that's where that came from?
I think a lot of it did, yeah.
Okay.
Because there's a band that he was in called Heroic Doses, and the album's called Heroic Doses.
That's
An
an awesome
instrumental.
name, by the way.
Yeah, it's an instrumental record, and I suggest you would probably dig it.
Okay.
Because he's kind of like he's got a lot of Jimmy Page and Angus Young in him, but then he's got this like Chicago post rock Richard Lloyd thing going on. And then he just does these what I call the unexpected bends. And I kind of got a little obsessed with that record. And another one, there's two albums called by a band called Five Style that he was in. And that's like the number 5 style.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing, but with also a little bit of dub reggae in there. Yeah, I mean, I kind of studied that. I actually I'll have to send you the juke instrumental thing that we did, because that's really influenced by him. In fact, I wrote a song that was like that I sent to him that was like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, you're a huge influence, and he really liked it. He was like, oh, thanks, man, this is great,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
but
really
like
cool.
not many people really know who he is outside of Chicago. He's big there, but he doesn't tour much, unfortunately. But yeah, he's a great player.
Man. Well, so are you. So there you go.
Oh, thanks.
Let's cruise through here a little bit. So for next gear, here's again totally relevant. I can hear this on the radio right now, kicking ass. That snare sounds great.
Yeah.
All those little harmonic things right there, those spread voicings and like using thirds and root third kind of thing, like that stuff in the context of this music with overdrive on it and a great amp and someone's hands that knows what's going on, you can't lose. It's like, dude, I feel like, and I'm gushing because it's like this album is freaking great, Pat. It's just like,
Thanks, man.
I mean, I'm like, is there a possibility we can get a second Park Police record? That would be
Well,
great.
well, it's funny because we recorded like 5 songs that we never put out, and we've been meaning to do it. Um, we're life gets in the way. I
Yeah,
wasn't really a huge fan of my vocals on some of it, so I was like, I really need to redo those, and I still haven't done it. So at some
dude.
point, I'd like to do it.
I mean, like, were you happy with your vocals on this record?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of my voice in general, I will say.
Mhm.
I don't know many singers who are, but I'm definitely not. And I like to manipulate it. I always put like, some sort of saturation on my vocals because I feel like it gives like a little bit more. There's like a mid-range in there that helps my voice a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Seems like
but
there's compression on this that's pushing it a little bit,
oh
right?
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
It sounds good, man. I mean,
Well, thanks, man.
it fits the vibe. All right, so I want to jump to Down with Control because this is the song that I was talking about. Feels like it could be like a Queen's tune.
Hmm.
And here, you guys can judge for yourself, but man, it's killing. So this is Eric singing
Yeah.
on this one. Okay.
Hmm.
Another great guitar hook too. This whole album is full of great guitar hooks.
Oh, thanks, man.
It's so warm. Your guitar's so warm in the mix.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, the bassman in
Yeah.
that one, in the telly. Probably one of these too.
Oh,
That
what's
thing.
that? What's that?
That's a
Oh, LTD.
Barber LTD, like the silver.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah,
all
yeah,
over
yeah.
that
Oh,
record.
really? Okay.
Hmm.
So I know you said like the fuzz too. But were you using a lot of pedals at this time, or were you mostly when you were tracking just going straight in for like rhythm parts, just cranking an amp?
Um, no, I mean, I usually I cranked it a lot, but I'd sometimes, if it depends, sometimes the time of night it was, I would try to like not play so loud, so I would use a pedal to get some overdrive. So like one of these two, this thing, the super hard on, I use that a lot
Yeah.
to get a boost, and then the silver LTD, and then I think I had a tube screamer, this thing, which is like, look at this thing, it's been through the
Oh,
ringer.
yeah. Is that like an Analog Man mod
It
that you had?
is, it
Yeah,
is.
nice. Cool.
Probably 96 or so, something like that,
Oh man,
97.
look at you. You're ahead of the game there.
Yeah,
Dude.
maybe 98, something like that.
So when you guys track this, did you track everything live?
Um, yeah, we would track the rhythm parts live. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Did you do a scratch vocal? Or did you guys just mouth like to keep
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Just mouthed it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, it's crazy to think that you guys did this in a basement, and I'm
Hmm.
gathering you guys. How separate were you? I mean, did you have to like
Not
build little
very.
baffles? Oh wow. Okay.
We didn't. No, we probably should have, but no. I mean, I'm trying to think if we use the pod ever. Sometimes we would do things, and it's all kind of blurry. You'll have to forgive me because it's been 20 years.
Of course, yeah.
But I know that sometimes we would use pods, like, or Eric would like plug in direct, and I would use a pod, and we would like, so we wouldn't get the bleed for the drums. And I'm
Mhm.
sure Bruno, if he could tell you exactly, because he remembers these things. But um, you know that we would do some of that, and sometimes a pod track would make it on there. It's like, oh, that's
Really?
actually sounds fine. You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and that's with Elder Statesman too. It would. There's times when people, I've had people say, "Oh man, what was that one guitar track, that one guitar sound you had?" Like my friend's dad, who's a guitar player on with one of the albums I did with that band. He was like, "Oh, I love that." I was like, "Actually, that's a PRS Starla into a pod." Yeah.
That's the thing, and that, like, I mean, that was pretty early on for, like, in terms of digital modeling
Hmm.
when you think about
Yeah.
it, you know?
Yeah.
Um, what track on here are you most proud of that you feel like, "Man, we loved the way it turned out." Like, anytime I hear it now, it brings a smile to my face kinda thing.
I mean, on Mission Song for sure.
Yeah.
Because that song, also, that song was about, us kind of forming the band, and I even reference Mick in that song about, I say something like, at least one of us plays the chord that we all heard, and that was
Mhm.
him. Like he got to play with Clutch, and we were really proud of him, and jealous at the same time.
Right.
So that brings like back memories because Mick is gone now, unfortunately.
Mm.
Um, but that one, yeah, for sure. I like Nationwide, just because I just really like the melody of that, and I think it's just kind of a catchy tune. But I mean, I'm proud of the whole record. I really like it.
Mhm.
When it came out, the City Paper reviewed it and stuff, and they gave us a pretty good review. And we actually had some interest from a Baltimore label. We were gonna like maybe sign with them, but then I moved to Philly, and
Yeah.
that's what happened. This is the kind of the story of my life. I get a band off the ground, and then I move. This has happened to
Right.
me like I can't tell you how many times.
Dude, I know. I mean, so you were here, you went to Philly, and then did you go out west after
Yeah.
that?
So I was
Okay.
in Philly for almost 10 years.
Mhm.
I mean, so I went from like Baltimore, I mean, College Park to Baltimore to Annapolis to Philly, and then San Diego now. So,
Man.
and like right now starting my like 11th original band. In my 50s. Who does that? What
That's so
what
great,
kind of
dude.
death wish do I have?
What's is that project a funk project? Like, what's going on for that?
Yeah, it's well, I had a band out here that was doing like instrumental kind of like funk and Afrobeat and stuff like that, and it's it's kind of going on like a hiatus, kind of like it's we're probably going to do some recording, but that's it. Everybody's just too busy. It was like a big band, but the percussionist in that band was like, "Hey, do you want to do something with these other guys?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So now we just started playing, and it's there's already 7 people in it. So it's just and once you get to a certain age, it's like, man, it's hard, getting people. Everybody's in a million bands and the jobs, and
I
so
know.
it's hard to get it off the ground, But it's a lot of fun. We're doing like cumbia and rumbas and stuff like that too, percussionist. So it's like some stuff that I haven't really played much of, but which I love because I'm always looking for new stuff to do.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
That's your MO, man. That's like what you said
yeah.
earlier. It's like you
Hmm.
can't stay in one place too long musically.
Yeah, it's probably to a fault.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so like hypothetically, let's say you guys would have signed with that label and you guys would have kind of gone on to like have a long career with this band, like if you were still doing it right now. Do you feel like you would have either gotten bored with Park Police, or do you think you guys would have just like almost evolved into whatever your musical taste would have been at that time? Because I think there's
Mhm.
there's like validity. Like you think about somebody like Charlie Hunter, that dude reinvents himself every record, and his
Oh
his
yeah.
fan base stays with him. So like, who's to say that
Hmm.
you guys couldn't have done that? Like, what do you think would have happened if it would have turned into something like a full career?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because those guys are kind of like me. They get bored of the same sound, and we probably would have added people and kind of, gone through a psychedelic phase and probably back to like a groove phase and God knows what else.
Right.
Eric is really into, he has a band, and he does more of like the electronic stuff. From it's like old school hip hop to like club. And he lives in Europe right now, so he's like very influenced by that kind of stuff over there. And
Mm.
so he's always kind of like, you know looking for new music and new influences, and Bruno too. Um, Bruno has like albums of him playing all the instruments, like these really super catchy pop records.
Oh
And
man,
I
I'd
I
love to
feel like
hear that.
yeah, he's got like 2 or 3 records on Spotify under his name, and they're I think some of his best songs, he saves his best songs for his records, because he can write hooks really, really well.
Nice.
And he's a great musician. He's all around musician. So
Is he still in like the tri-state area? Like,
no, so he married someone in the State Department, and he's in Turkey right now.
whoa,
I think they're coming back to DC at some point this summer. But yeah, he's been like in France and Turkey, and like he's been like all over the world, and
dang.
Eric's in Spain half the year, and then he comes back here.
Hmm,
So we haven't been able to even see each other for a few years now. So like the three of us haven't gotten together in quite some time,
hmm.
unfortunately, because I would love to just get together in a room and jam with those guys.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Man, I should we should do this again sometime and have all three of you on to see who remembers anything different that we missed. Cause man, I'd love to hear that. All right. So my favorite, well, Mission Song is one of my faves just because it feels so good and there's so many great hooks. But I Tried is, I think, a close second to that, dude. And the reason being is, let me play it up through like the first chorus area so you guys can hear this. But man,
Yeah, that's Bruno's song.
oh, like hook after hook.
Mm-hmm.
But you're singing this one?
Mm-mm.
It's Bruno?
No, that's Bruno. I sing the harmonies.
Yeah, that's a beautiful part right there.
Thanks.
It, like every little part of that song has an extra hook. Like there's like 3 different parts right there. Like whether that's
Yeah.
like verse, pre-chorus, chorus type situation.
Mm-hmm.
And in like what I find it as a nerdy musician, here I'm going to close this down. But as a nerdy musician who has studied music and who has gone to music school, blah blah blah,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much cool stuff going on. Like it's very modal at times, which is not something that you would find in the most indie rock.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are getting way more harmonic colors in there. There's interesting rub at times between the vocal melody for a split second against a chord, which is a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful dissonance that happens.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of moments on this record like that are just, it's like when you watch a movie that you really love and you see it the first time and you're like, oh man, that was great. And then you go back and you watch it and like, oh, how did I miss that the first time? Like it's stuff like that happens when I go back and revisit this album, that is just like little nuggets and little things that I'm like, now I'm tuned into like, okay, I know what's going on maybe on the right side of the speakers. Like, let me
Mm-hmm.
tune in for a second and listen to what's happening over here. So like, even though you guys did this yourselves and whatever, like whatever the like, standards are these days of, what you should and you shouldn't do for recording and all that stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
there are no rules. And this
Right.
album is a perfect example of what you can do with 3 people that are passionate about the product that they're about to put out.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man.
Yeah.
That's huge, and I appreciate coming from you, who I have mad respect for your abilities and your songwriting and all on everything.
Oh,
So
thanks,
that's
man.
very kind of you to say.
I really do mean it, man. I think, and I've been telling so over the years, I've told so many people about this record because it's pretty special, Pat. Like it has its spot in, modern pop music, even like even listening, like I said, it's relevant for any if you listen to it right now. And hopefully people that hear this and watch this episode are gonna be like, oh shit, like wow, like because there's so many records out there. I mean, how are you and I ever gonna know everything that was released in the history of
Yeah,
music? It's
yeah,
impossible. It's impossible.
yeah,
And I think that anyone who has an open mind to all styles of music would love Park Police because there's elements of all this cool stuff happening on that record that, maybe we take for granted the fact that you can make a casserole and put whatever ingredients in there you want to put in there, you know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think we, overthunk it at all. We were just trying to make, a good record, and this was probably the second time that we had ever really done anything on our own. And this is right, when I started to get into recording, where I was like, oh, I can just sit at home and actually work on this guitar tone and get it right. I can sit here and move the mic around or play with my amp and finally dial it in. Whereas, previously I was just like, you know, plugging a Strat into a Twin and go and a Tube Screamer, and that was it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I wasn't really trying to dial it in and do some experimenting and stuff like that. And with this record, we did a lot of that, which was
So
fun. It
so
was just a lot of fun.
this was the first time you did that,
Yeah, well, we
period.
had done the Strook instrumental thing, which actually some of those songs ended up on a hiking like I don't know, it was like a documentary or something for Sportiva because a friend of ours worked for him. But
Oh, that's
um
cool.
yeah. And that we had like a Roland VS 80 whatever 880 I think it was,
Mhm.
one of those digital trackers, and we recorded that, and that was kind of the first time we had done stuff on our own. But I wasn't doing any of the overdubs or anything like that. I didn't have any gear at the time. But this record is like when DAW recording was just like everybody could do that now. At the time that was blowing up. You know what I mean? And there's probably a lot of more records out there that are similar where people are finally had that power in their hands, and were able to do things on their own.
Mhm.
And it was exciting to be able to do that. It's been hours in the basement,
Yeah.
just dialing stuff in. And or we could take multiple takes, and we weren't paying for that studio time.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny right now, right when you were saying that. So I have all this material, and the one guy in my band's been telling me we should just do it in your house. Let's just do it
Yeah,
like by ourselves. Like we can save money and try. I'm like, you know what? We probably could. Like
you
this
probably could.
record's friggin' great. And like, why? I mean, why can't everybody do that stuff? You know what I mean? Like, and even if it
Yeah.
falls short of some dude that I've recorded with in terms of sonics, like if we do that, like it'll have a fingerprint. It'll have something cool about it
Hmm.
that's different.
Yeah.
Um, it's just great. I mean, it's really inspiring, dude. Um, I wanted to ask you, so as far as like there's some synth stuff
Hmm.
on this record.
Yeah.
What what was that? Who played it? And
Hmm.
what was the keyboard and what were you guys using? Because some of those sounds were really neat, man.
So I played the keyboard parts, and it was a Korg MS 2000.
Okay.
Yeah, my buddy Tim Bear from Slow Jets, he turned me on to that synth because he's way into synths, and I ended up buying one. And it's cool because it's like a, what do they call it, like an analog modeling synth, but it has a lot of knobs, so you can tweak things. And I
Mm.
certainly did not know what I was doing, and so I would like mess around until I found a sound. um, and then actually I did, this is probably a little bit later though, but I did some shows with Slow Jets. They wanted me to play guitar and synth, and so Tim he had one too, and he just programmed those sounds into mine. And then I ended up using some of those sounds on my records because they were so good. Those
Oh,
pre-synths.
nice, dude.
Yeah.
What
So.
was the organ from that keyboard too from Mission Song?
Hmm. Yeah.
Ah,
Hmm.
okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Because that's pretty legit sounding. It sounds like lo-fi, like, Hammond recording.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it actually has a pretty decent um organ sound, but I think I combined it with like a little bit of a synth sound underneath it, like a pad or something.
Oh yeah, you can
Um,
kind of hear that now you say that. Yeah.
yeah.
Huh.
And it's
That's
funny
cool.
because I don't come in right away. Like I'm a little bit late coming in, but we were like, just leave it.
Did you guys arrange all these tunes as like a band, or did people come in with their songs and say, "Here's the arrangement"? Like, did you tweak them as you were kind of working them out?
Yeah, we always rehearsed. Basically, we worked the songs out for live shows. And that's the way, playing with Bruno and Eric. I've done it for years and years. It's all about just like playing the live show and making the songs for the live show, and then recording wise, we would have fun with them doing overdubs and maybe changing things a little, to fit the song.
Right.
Um, but yeah, we definitely would take a lot of time to craft the songs, and in my basement, we rehearsed in my basement, and we would just work the songs out, as everybody brought them in. So
Yeah. That's so cool, dude. I
yeah.
mean, the fact that you guys, like you said, we just had fun. Like you can hear it. It translates.
Hmm.
That's what's cool about this album too, is like I feel like there's a palpable jubilance that comes out of
Yeah,
the
no
speakers,
doubt.
man. You know?
I mean, I listen, I am super fortunate to have played with so many good musicians over the years. Like every band that I've ever been in is just, not only have they been great players, but they've also been like great friends. And I won't play in a band with people that I can't have fun with and joke with. And
Yeah.
I think hopefully that, comes across in the music.
Yeah. No,
We're like we're very, very good friends. I mean, I feel those guys are like brothers to me. We, having toured with them and shared, slept on floors and things like that together,
how far
vans.
how far did you guys go, like tip to tip, East Coast wise, when you were touring?
Well, with Juke, I would say, I know, I know we played kind of like pretty far north, like New York and somewhere up there. I don't remember too well, to be honest, because it was, probably 25 years ago.
Mhm.
But we went down to like, South Carolina, North Carolina, South Carolina. I don't think we ever got any more south than that. But we did
Nice.
a lot of like, Virginia, DC, Maryland, New York City, Philly. With Park Police, not as much, but we did, a fair amount of, DC, mostly stayed around DC, Philly, um, Virginia, that kind of stuff. So at that time, we had full time jobs.
Yeah.
By then, you know what I mean. We were in our
God damn these
thirties.
stupid full-time jobs. Like this
I
band could have
know,
been
I know, man.
I feel like there, you hear about these bands in Baltimore, like because like the indie scene in Baltimore is pretty big.
Yeah.
And
Oh
it's
yeah.
been big for a long time, like Future Islands
Hmm.
and some of those bands.
Oh yeah.
But like you guys fit that mold better than, I mean, like coming out of this town, I feel like that band, I feel like embodies the kind of indie kind of punk, post-punk kind of element, rock and roll element that I feel like is the
Yeah.
working class vibe of Baltimore. But I don't
I
know,
mean,
there's
we played a
something about it.
lot of shows at the Talking Head and the Auto Bar and things like that. There's a great, at the time there was just a great camaraderie. I mean, I
Mhm.
remember Roman Keebler from the Oranges band was booking the Talking Head, and you know, um, we were always getting in there with our friends' bands and meeting people, and it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, man.
Meaning, it was, the thing about, Baltimore, it's Charm City for a reason. Everybody's pretty cool, pretty down to earth, especially the
Mhm.
musicians, at least, when I was there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's I want everybody to go listen to the record. It's just great. It's fantastic, and it's a fun record, like we were just talking about. It's got elements of all styles of music. It's absolutely one of my favorite, if not my favorite, indie rock record. It really
Yeah,
is.
thanks, Mark. Appreciate
So,
that, man.
yeah,
I
dude.
appreciate, really do.
Well, let's do the lightning round get down, Pat.
Okay.
So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put on a metronome about 112 BPM cruising altitude for some suspense. And
Okay.
gonna ask you 10 questions, rapid fire. You don't have to do it super rapid fire. You can explain your answers if you want to. You don't have to. You can burn right
Okay.
through it if you want to. The first one is always the same. Lennon or McCartney?
McCartney.
Offset or standard guitar shape?
Right now, offset.
Okay. What offset instrument are you playing right now?
Uh, I've got one right. Well, no, I don't. It's a 62 Jag. Actually, I have it right here.
Oh, cool.
62 reissue. Sorry. Jag.
Okay. Oh,
This
yeah,
guy.
that's the picture you
Yeah.
sent. Oh, is
Yeah.
that Pelham Blue? Is that what that
It's
color?
ice blue metallic, I think.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
It's my main
Um,
guitar right now.
crab cakes or cheesesteaks?
Oh, crab cakes for sure. No
S-
doubt.
Star Wars or Indiana Jones?
That's tough, man.
Yeah.
I have to go. I'll go with Star Wars.
Alrighty. Wes Montgomery or Grant Green?
Grant Green.
Orioles or Phillies?
Orioles.
Fuzz or Overdrive?
Man. You're killing me. You're killing me with that one. I mean, I'd probably say 10 years ago Overdrive, but definitely Fuzz now.
Okay. Hide and seek or flashlight tag?
Flashlight tag.
West Coast, East Coast?
That's tough. That is tough because I like them for different things, you
I know.
know. But I have to say, I guess because I'm here, don't see myself moving back anytime soon. Although I'd never say never. I'll say West Coast for now.
Well, you live in, I mean, that's like my favorite city ever. Ever.
Yeah, it's pretty nice out here.
Every time I've been there, I've just been like, called my wife, like, hey, I'm not coming home. So if you want to see me again, you gotta come out here. All right, and here's the last one, Pat. Sometimes this is the hardest, sometimes it's the easiest. If you could take one album and erase it from your memory, doesn't have to be your favorite album of all time, but if you could take one album and erase it from your memory, just so you could go back and experience it for the first time again,
Man.
what album do you think that would be?
Oh, that is so hard. I mean, I am a huge Beatles fan. Beatles are probably my all-time fave, but I don't know. But probably "Bold as Love" by
Okay.
Hendrix because that was such a big influence on me. Um,
Okay.
in
Okay.
in
I'll
high
take it.
school, I bought one of those tab books. You remember when you could buy those tab books, and I learned the whole thing.
I've got several things up there that I still need to crack open. Dude, I just got a Wayne Krantz released it's like volume 1 and it's like I don't think it's his super early record stuff, but it's like a bunch of his like famous tunes if you know his music. And I
Hmm.
have yet to like dive in there and I need to because there's so many things I want to like learn in terms of voicings and how he voices things. It's the main
Hmm.
reason I bought it, but I've got a whole I know I still have a bunch of those, dude, from when I was a kid on a shelf right next to me. So I know exactly
Oh,
what you're talking
cool,
about. Yeah, man.
cool. Yeah.
So is that the Strat influence? Is that like basically Jimmy's the reason you were playing Strats for so long?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, also, when I first started playing and I really got serious in probably 87. The Edge was a big influence at that time. Like U2
Okay.
was huge. And, I think I bought a delay pedal was the first pedal I ever had. And,
Mm,
I still do this to this day, love the old U2 stuff and just his harmonic sense and his tone and everything. Um, so yeah, but Jimmy is always like guitar players. He's got to be my number one for sure.
okay.
Still, and yeah, no, and it's funny because I played Strats for the first 10 years, and then I like got it myself stratted out, and I was like, "Ah, I can't play a Strat, because like I said, I get sick of things,
Yeah.
and then I bought one I mean, I haven't had one in years, and I bought one about 2.5 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. Um, and I've been loving it. I've been really enjoying playing it.
Nice,
So
dude. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah, I
I'm in
did
the
a reunion.
opposite. I'm in the opposite world right now, man. I started playing a 335 and now I'm like I fell in love with the Gibson scale length. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh man, like this is just I feel like this was a piece of me that was missing in a
Yeah.
way, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of
'Cause I've always
course.
been a Strat guy my whole life. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
weird.
I can see that though from your background. I mean, it makes a lot of sense that you would get a 335 at some point.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
it's a great for some reason, I don't understand this. Do you know the reason for this? But like I was talking to somebody and I was like, for some reason, I'm faster on this instrument than I am on the Strat. It's like it slows me down and it's like I have to fight it a bit more. And I have everything,
mm-hmm.
all the guitars are set up the same. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I play
What about the
11s
radius? What's the radius on that? Do you know?
on the 335. I don't know.
'Cause I find that for whatever reason, for me, necks that have a flatter radius, I'm faster on, and I have to slow down.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, ugh, why am I
Yeah.
doing that?
Right. Yeah. It definitely has a flatter radius. I know that, but I don't know the exact number. But
Hmm.
because the Strat is like a 63 custom shop, so it's got like a really nice neck, and actually a neck that I never had felt before. And
Okay.
then when I got it, I was like, oh, I get it now. Why people like those early 60 Strats. Like, this feels very comfortable.
Yeah.
But when I got on the other guitar, I was like, I was like, whoa, wait, that's
Yeah.
okay. All right.
I
So,
I actually just bought a 65 Silvertone 1454 with gold foils. Well, they're silver foils, whatever, but I'm really looking forward to playing that in this new band because I just
nice.
love the sound of those pickups. They're really cool.
Yeah,
Very
dude.
different.
Oh my God. Yeah. Very, very cool. Well, dude,
Yeah.
Pat, man, thank you for doing this on a
Of
Sunday.
course.
This is pre recorded, folks. So if you were wondering why you couldn't ask questions, that's why. But again, I'm going to say it and I'll scream it from the mountain top, but you got to go listen to the Park Police record. It's called Ranchero. If you missed it, go back, look at the screenshot of the album cover. Where did the name of the album come from, by the way?
It's actually a car. There's it's funny. I pulled up to one in San Diego, like a 19. It looked like it was probably like a 73 or 74. It's kind of El Camino-ish.
Okay.
And it just was like a fun, like you said, like the record is kind of a fun record, and I wanted something that convey that kind
Cool.
of vibe. So that's where it came
Awesome.
from.
Very, very
Yeah.
cool. Well, thanks again, Pat. I really appreciate your
Thank you,
time,
Mark.
buddy.
Appreciate it, man.
Cool. Everybody else, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. See you next time.